Frustrated with vehicle troubles? Ever wonder what's really happening under the hood? Well, you're not alone. Today, we're pulling back the curtain to help you understand your vehicle better and prepare you for those unexpected breakdowns on the road. Hi, I'm Katina with Gypsy Wander, your trusted guide to living full-time on the road. Welcome to the third episode of our Road Ready Vehicle Care series for nomads. Joining me again is the amazing Becky Witt, owner of George Witt Automotive in Lincoln. Becky has been sharing her expert knowledge throughout this series, and today we're diving under the hood. Becky, you and I both know that even well-maintained vehicles are going to inevitably have breakdowns and repairs. So you're going to teach us about the fluids under the hood today.
The first thing is we're just going to take a look at our fluids here. And this is washer solvent. You can see it's full.
Okay. And the coolant, though, show me again where you were pointing to the coolant.
Right here where it says coolant.
Okay.
So the second thing, washer solvant, coolant, power steering's the next one.
Okay.
Power steering is right here. And you know that. Get on top of that and see what it says. You got it upside down, for the love of God. I got to show you everything. Here it is. Here. Get up on this. There you go. Power steering fluid.
Okay.
Boom.
And it's got a couple lines, it looks like, on
it does. So lines are important. Anytime that you have lines, you want to be between the lines. Read between the lines, and that's never so true as on a dealing with a car.
So I'm okay because I'm between the lines?
You're between the lines. Down here, you're between the lines.
Okay.
Over here, you're between the lines.
Okay.
Holy hell.
Okay.
Now, we're going to do engine. So now here's the issue. What's going on with the engine oil? In the first place, this is the only thing under the hood that's yellow. That's your motor oil. We're going to pull the oil out, pull the stick out, and we're going to wipe it off.
We don't care what it says coming out the first time.
No, and I'll tell you why you have to wipe it off. Because when the engine's running, oil is flying every place. So whatever's on the stick is just what happened to fly there.
Okay.
It's not going to mean anything.
Okay.
So now you put it back in, and then you pull it out, and it's going to drip a little bit. So you always, and you can see you got a dot where it's low. There we go. That dot is a quart low. That is full. And you can see, you have to look real careful because this oil is brand new clean. And it's right up to the top, which means it's full. You're
okay,
good.
Perfect. And so how often do I need to check that?
I would, personally, I'd check it once a month, and I'd get to know your car. Because people think I'm good because I'm not leaking anything, so my oil has to be good. You can apply that to power steering because it never consumes power steering fluid. It just recirculates the fluid.
Oh, okay.
Motor oil can be consumed inside the engine just by combustion and how it works. So you always check your oil, and you want to get a standard for your car. Older cars had really good rings in them, and a lot of older cars won't use any oil. My old Acura, which is it's an 07, so it is, let's see, 10, 15 years old. 15 years old, 180,000 on it. Never uses a drop. Every time I pull it out, it's exactly up to the top. Now, you take a brand new car, and because they had to change the lighter rings for better fuel efficiency, because the government said you can't sell this car unless it gets certain miles. So now these rings are more prone to let oil past them.
Okay.
So it's going to use it. If you bought a brand new Buick today, and you drove it 2,000 miles, and you pulled out and you were a quart low on oil, you go, that was a Buick. And they're going to say, well, according to the manual, using a quart in 1,000 miles is normal. So if you drove 5,000 miles and had to put 5 quarts in, they'd say, you're good. You shouldn't, but that's what they would say. So that's the reason why you just check the oil. So how often do you check it? You're going to get a feel for it yourself.
Just from what it is month after month?
Just from experience, month after month. You kind of watch your odometer. You got an oil change sticker, so you know when it was changed. You just want to monitor how long does it take to go through a quart.
Okay, and I actually put a calendar reminder on the first of every month to check the oil.
There you go.
That way I don't forget, because it's one of those things that I don't think of.
I know, and in your situation, and for your readers and subscribers, this is paramount, because this is where you live.
Right.
you go down and there ain't no going home.
Right.
You're there.
Right.
So doing this check at least once a month. I'd maybe do it once a week if I was traveling.
Oh, okay.
Then we got brake fluid. There is a full and a low.
And we want to be between the lines?
You want to be between the lines. And right over here, you can see that it says min. No, I'm sorry. Min is right here. That's the line for min. This up here is the line for max.
Okay.
All right. So you never add brake fluid.
Never add brake fluid,
No.
but we need to look at it.
Need to look at it. You don't add brake fluid because when the brake calipers, when the brake pads wear, the caliper that applies on the hydraulic caliper, which is worked by brake fluid, has to move in, and that drops the level of brake fluid.
Ah.
The way that Honda and Toyota engineered their vehicles, and this is genius, they made the level exactly as much as it would take. So when you start with new pads, the fluid's full. As they wear down to the service limit, they're down at the minimum. It kicks the light on, and you go, oh, my brake light's on. Gee, I better get this checked. So that's when you have a brake inspection to find out something's going on.
Okay.
Now, this is probably another reason you don't go to Walmart for an oil change, because they don't know.
Okay.
They know they're supposed to fill fluids. Now, I'm not telling you what Walmart does because I don't work, but I know everything about the car business. And I know that to do cheap oil changes, you hire cheap help. They're the last person you want inspecting your car. They don't know in some cases as much as you do. So you don't want them adding fluid. A skilled professional won't add fluid.
Okay.
You don't top it off.
You don't top it off.
It's one of the few fluids you don't top off.
Okay.
You can top off everything else. So the last one is automatic transmission fluid.
Okay.
Now this one varies by car. Some cars you have to check the fluid with the engine running. Others you check with it shut off. And I can't tell you which is which. You got to look at the manual to find out.
Okay.
Okay.
For Toyotas.
For Toyotas and Hondas, you check them with it shut off.
With it shut off. Okay.
Yeah. This one is the transmission, and it's even got a little clip on it.
Okay.
Because transmissions can develop pressure and blow the stick out.
Okay.
So they got a clip. So I'm going to pull this out first. I'm going to wipe it off because same reason. And I'm going to see what it says. Notice, no need to replace ATF under normal driving conditions.
ATF is
automatic transmission fluid. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you. I went a little technical on this here. So what they're telling you is no need to replace automatic transmission fluid under normal driving conditions. So a transactional repair shop will want to flush all your fluids. We call that a wallet flush.
A wallet flush. Right. Yeah, we don't like that.
We don't want that. So
we are going to wipe that off the first time. We're not going to care what it reads the first time. We're going to check the second time. And what are we looking for when we do this the second time?
Thank you. This is so important. This is everything right here. These little notches say cool, and you can see they're little notches. Smooth, smooth, up here to hot. Any place in between, you're good.
Okay, cold and hot.
Yep.
Do I want my transmission fluid cold or hot?
You driving or not?
Okay, so if I'm driving, my transmission fluid is hot, and I'm going to look at
what we're going to talk about. And this is great because I talk to people and they're talking about describing a problem they got, and I said, "Is the engine hot or cold?" And they go, "I don't think it was hot or cold." I said, "Well, cold is 75 degrees. Normal operating temperature is 196. So if it's below 196, it's considered a cold engine."
Oh.
Okay. So it doesn't really matter. What they're telling you is if it's down here and it's cold, it's normal.
Okay.
If it's up here when it's hot.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay. You're good.
So I can check it right after I've driven my vehicle, or I can check it before I've driven my vehicle.
Bingo.
It depends on if my engine has been running or not, where I'm going to look on my dipstick.
Exactly. Okay. It is considerably over, which is normal. When you have one that's leaking fluid like a banshee, you would overfill it.
Okay.
So, because you have impending issues.
Right.
Okay. The other thing that you do, you look and it's clear. It's fairly clear.
It's kind of got a red tint to it.
Yeah. Automatic transmission fluid normally is red.
One of the things that you hear sometimes is that people they say, "Oh, my car is overheating." What does that mean, and what should you do when your car is
This
overheating?
is a great question. Thank you. Most cars have a temperature gauge. The definition of overheating to me is that gauge is in a different spot. You don't wait till it's on the H.
Okay.
Most of these temperature gauges are designed to be a little below half, as
Okay.
far as half or full. But if it's always at a little below half, and you get to half, you're overheating.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and you get to 3/4, you are overheated.
Okay. And besides that little meter, what's going to be happening? Are we going to notice things?
Well, one thing that you may notice is a smell, like you've blown a hose. Another thing is if you hear an engine pinging when you step on the gas, you are really overheated. That's what they do.
Okay.
They ping like a son of a gun. You stop now.
Okay. And so is that what we do when our car's overheated, is we just wait for it to cool down?
You pull over right there and you lift the hood. How to talk to your mechanic.
How to talk to your mechanic. Okay.
I will tell you the biggest mistake that people make when talking to a mechanic is they try to figure out what to tell them to fix.
Okay.
They say, my pernendrils doesn't work.
Yep. I've had that experience.
Yeah.
My pernendril needs fixed.
My pernendril needs fixed. So what's the matter with your pernendril? First place, you don't even have a pernendril.
Well, the mechanic that I told that to said, "You're what?" Had no idea what I was talking about.
Okay, so what you were talking about, pernendril, is park, reverse, drive, neutral, low.
Yep.
That's a pernendril.
Yep.
And I knew that right away when you started talking about your pernendril.
Yes, you were not the mechanic that didn't know what I was talking about.
I know, but I am, because I've been doing this 50 years, I'm highly skilled at weaseling information out. They'll say, how much is a starter? So I say, what's going on? Well, my car doesn't start. So when you try to start it, what happens? It doesn't start. So here's how mechanics work. When you say, my car doesn't start, I line up all these suspects. So I'm going to go to this one street, and I'm going to bring out every suspect that deals with providing fuel to the engine, because it needs three things to start. It needs fuel, it needs compression, and it needs a spark. All right. So I've gone down to Fuel Street, and I've rounded up all the suspects: fuel lines, fuel tanks, relays, wiring, electrical power, fuel pumps, the type of fuel. Is it bad gas? Has it got water in the gas? All right. So right now you got a vision. There's maybe 20 people in this group. So then the second group is the compression group. Do we have compression? So what all's involved in that? Maybe another 50 people. Then the last one is spark. We got spark. Probably another 50 things. So when you say my car doesn't start, in my mechanic brain, I got 150 things it could be.
Right.
So the last thing I want you to tell me is I need a starter. You see how dumb that is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and I try to weasel this out of people because I want to charge for testing and inspection. People don't want to pay for testing and inspection. This is like ready, fire, aim.
Okay.
Why would you not want to pay somebody for testing? I related earlier the story of a woman I know who'd had 5 starters put in her Chevy. Finally gets to a real pro mechanic who diagnoses it correctly as being a battery cable that was corroded and had too much resistance and wasn't providing enough power to the starter. Looked like it was a starter, sounded like it was a starter, smelled like it was a starter, tasted like it was a starter, acted like it was a starter, but it wasn't a starter.
Right. And meanwhile, spent money for 5 starters and still was having the issue.
Yeah, thousands of dollars. All because we didn't have the right procedure to do testing and inspection.
So instead of coming to a mechanic and saying, I need a new starter, what are we going to say?
We're going to tell them, what does it do? When does it do it?
Okay.
So that if you have a noise, you got to, okay, let's go back to the starter. It won't start. So what happens, and I do this in my car class, I set up a car and I put it in drive. So I tell somebody, I got a volunteer, get in the car, start the car. You turn the key, nothing happens. That's what you want to tell them.
You turn the key, nothing happens.
I turn the key and nothing happens. That's what's going on. And that means the car won't start.
Right.
All right. So the car won't start. When I put the key in and turn it, nothing happens.
Okay.
Okay. Now I can eliminate compression. You guys can all go home. The fuel, you guys can go home.
I
got
the
about
spark.
3 guys over here that are my key suspects. So we're going to be talking to you. We're going to be working you guys over pretty good so that we can figure out when you turn the key, nothing happens. What is it? We still got a long list of suspects. Could be the ignition switch, could be a ground, could be a penendral. Could literally be in drive. Car thinks it's in drive.
Oh, and it doesn't look like it, but it could be.
Right.
I mean,
it could be.
there's
Yes.
all kinds of things it could be.
Yes. Yes. There were some Hondas years ago that the shifter, it detected if it was in drive or in neutral, wouldn't crank if it was not in park, and Honda used grease on these contacts, and when it got really, really cold, the grease was thick enough that it prevented an electrical connection, and the car wouldn't start. The fix was take it apart, clean the grease out, and out it goes. But you could put in battery starters, you could do all this stuff, and it's all right there, and it ain't going to happen until it's below a certain temperature.
Mm-hmm.
So these are just examples.
Right.
What you can do to tell your mechanic, here's where you want to go. I put the key in, it doesn't go. All right. The second one is it just clicks, but it won't crank. The third one is the starter engages the engine, it cranks, but it won't fire. And I get people that say, but I don't know anything about a car. You need to know what it does, right? You got ears.
Right.
You got ears. Yeah.
Right.
So you turn the key, what happened? Well, I don't know. Don't give me that.
Yeah. So tell your mechanic what it's doing.
Right.
When it's doing it.
Bingo.
And let them determine what it is.
Exactly. So when you have any situation, temperature can affect it. So is the weather cold? Is the weather hot? Have you just driven the car? Because there are these won't start symptoms that will happen only when it's below a certain temperature. There are these situations that it has to get hot to do it. So you want to have enough information for this mechanic so that I can take this ticket and I can do what you say it does, and then I'll know what to test it.
Okay. But what about all the times that your car's doing something, but it won't do it at the mechanics?
It never does. It never does. So this, again, goes back to paying attention. Is it right after I've just started it or what? Most of the time it's because I don't get enough information.
Right. So in that situation, would you recommend keeping some sort of log that says that you writing down, well, this happened on this particular day, and I was just starting my vehicle. It had sat all night. And...
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. You start a log and you give them as much information as you can.
Especially when it's an intermittent problem. It's hard for you to determine when is this happening, much less a mechanic you take it to and says, well, this happens sometimes. They have less information than you have because you've experienced it. It's still intermittent, but the log is going to give you more direction.
So because we think, well, the mechanic will figure it out. Well, not if you don't give them enough information. You want to save money. You want to reduce repairs. You want to get your car fixed for less and be more reliable. The more information you can give to that mechanic, the faster they get to it, the easier this whole thing is.
Perfect. Yeah.
So that's how you talk to a mechanic. What does it do? When does it do it?
I don't know about you, but I have learned so much. Definitely important things to keep an eye on to prevent trouble. If you're getting value out of this Road Ready series, be sure to like this video and share it with your friends who could benefit from these tips. We're not done yet. In our next video, we'll tackle driving in different road conditions. So be sure to hit that bell so that you're notified when our next video is out. Until next time, stay wild and free.